Okay. Okay, so we have started discussion last week regarding freezing. Okay, so just as a brief recap. Okay, so we started discussing about freezing and we've discussed about the definition. Basically, it's similar to chilling, but the huge difference is that we will lower the temperature uh, below the boiling point of water. Okay, products okay will okay, so product lifespan will last for several months to years. Okay, and then we have discussed about the boiling point. Okay, temperature profile during freezing. This is important for you to understand what is happening to your food product. Okay, during the freezing process. So when we reduce the temperature, okay, so the when we uh, discard the heat, okay, discard the heat. Refrigeration process basically is the removal of heat, okay, from a certain space. Okay, most of the time it is your refrigerator or your freezers. Okay, so when we remove heat, basically the temperature will drop. Okay, so there will be a decrease in the temperature. Okay, and then up to a certain point it will start to increase again. Okay, so this is what we call as subcooling. Okay, supercooling, sorry, supercooling. Okay, and then it will level off. Okay, level off. Okay, this is where the phase transition from water that is liquid state will convert. Okay, it will transit into solid phase, that is the ice. Okay, so even though we are removing the heat, okay, temperature will not further decrease. Okay, this is due to the latent heat. Okay, latent heat. Okay, so latent heat of freezing. Okay, so up to a certain point, at this point, basically the majority of water will be in ice form, that is in the solid form, and then further further okay, so further reduction or removal of heat, okay, will result in a further reduction of temperature. Okay, however, this is for pure water. Okay, so we have discussed about the phenomena during the freezing process. So this is also important, freezing point depression. Okay, due to solubles, okay, solutes inside the water, okay, in our food products, freeze concentration, okay, resulting will cause the reduction of liquid water in the liquid form, but the concentration of solids will still be the same, resulting in a higher concentration of the solids. Okay. Okay, so what will be the effects? Okay, so this is the typical uh, freezing temperature during the freezing of food products. Okay, so we will see when we remove the heat. Okay, this is the time of freezing. Okay, so it is synonym to the removal of heat. Okay, when we remove the heat, then the temperature will start to decrease. Okay, so this is the supercooling, and then we'll start to increase again. Okay, so we'll start to increase again. Okay, and then this is supposed to be where it levels off because of the latent heat of freezing. However, however, because and this is where we measure the freezing point. But because inside foods there are solutes, so it will experience a freezing point depression, okay, and also freeze concentration. So the more we remove the heat, the more the ice forms, and the higher the degree of freeze concentration. Okay, so that will cause further freezing point depression. Okay, so that's why it is curved like this. Okay. Okay, so we stopped there. Okay, so another phenomena. Okay, so another phenomena is ice crystal formation. Okay, so when we freeze water, freeze our food products. Okay, so the water inside the food products, okay, will start to transit into, will change into ice forms. Okay, that is in the solid state. Okay, we'll discuss this now. Okay, so this is what we call as ice crystals. Okay, so when ice crystals form, they will form in various sizes. Okay, and the size of the crystals depends, okay, on the rate of freezing. If you were to freeze it really quick, meaning that the rate of freezing, okay, if you were to freeze it real slow, okay, slowly, meaning that the freezing rate is low, okay, freezing rate is low, okay, then the size of ice crystals will be bigger, okay. But if you were to freeze it real quick, very fast, okay, then meaning that the freezing rate is high. Okay, so the crystals, the crystal size of ice, okay, will be smaller. Okay, so why is that important? Because large ice crystals will break down tissue cells. Okay, so when it forms, okay, it will disrupt or destroy the microstructure of the tissues of our food products. Okay, so what will happen is that, okay, it causes the tissue damage, especially soft tissues. Okay, for example, like fruits and vegetables, okay, very soft tissues. Okay, so this will be damaged. Okay, and then there will be lack of fluid reabsorption. Okay, for this aspect, we have to understand that the texture, okay, of food products, okay, especially those that contains water or moisture, depends a lot not only on the amount of moisture, but also the location and the condition at which the moisture is present. Okay, so if for example, okay, we have a food product, okay, and then the moisture, okay, the moisture is not there, we lose the moisture, so it will affect the texture of the product. The product will become more dry, for example, and it will become more hard. Okay, because water will contribute to the softness or the tenderness of the texture for the product. Okay, and the moisture has to be at certain location. Okay, so if the moisture is only at the surface of the product, then even though the surface will be wet, but the product will still be hard, okay, and less flexible, okay, less tender. Okay, so what is meant by this lack of fluid reabsorption is that, okay, when we freeze products, okay, so the water, okay, will migrate. It will not stay at the same location, okay, before freezing, okay, because remember, okay, when we freeze, then all these water molecules, okay, it will be pure, they will come together, okay, and form ice crystals, okay, and over time these ice crystals will increase in size. Okay, so the migration of moisture, okay, from its original location will affect the texture. So what we prefer is that when it is thawed, okay, before we are going to use the food product, we thaw it first, okay, then we would expect that when the ice crystals liquefies, okay, then all the water will migrate back to its original position, original location. So this will result, if that happens, okay, then it will result in a food product with the same texture as before it is frozen. Okay, but if the microstructure is destroyed by the ice crystals, by the formation of ice crystals, it will not enable the moisture after thawing to move back into its previous position or location inside the structure of the food product. So when that happens, okay, usually it will just leach out of the food product. Okay, so that's why when we thaw our frozen foods, usually there will always be a certain amount of water that will leach out of the products during thawing. Okay, so it will not be able to migrate back to its original position, thus will affect the texture of the products. Okay, so that's what ice crystals, one of the effects of ice crystals. Okay, and then loss of excess fluid during defrosting. This is also related, because when the microstructure of the product has been damaged, okay, so it will not be able to contain the moisture completely. So there will be a lot of loss of fluid. Okay, that's why when we thaw our food product, then we can see all the water around it. Okay, on the table or etc. Okay, and along with the water, there will also be loss of flavor, because certain flavors they are water soluble. So when water leaches out of the product, it will carry along with it flavor compounds. So there will be loss of flavor, and similarly loss of color, because certain color components or compounds, they are water soluble. So when the water leaches out of the product, it will bring along these compounds, okay, that produces color. Okay, and then so the overall effect, okay, varies between commodities. Okay, but in general, it will have a detrimental or negative effect on the products. Okay, another phenomena that happens during freezing that we have to understand is recrystallization. Okay, so this is the reformation of crystals, okay, during the freezing process. Okay, it occurs due to, okay, first the crystals will merge to increase stability. Okay, ice crystals or any crystals for that matter, they are less stable. They want to increase their stability, and they achieve this by attracting similar compounds and making the crystals larger. Okay, making the crystals larger, so that the larger the crystals, okay, the more stable that it will be. Okay, okay, and then secondly is because of storage temperature fluctuations. Okay, so the crystals, okay, this will contribute to recrystallization because they tend to merge. Okay, so the second one is storage temperature fluctuations. Okay, uh, any ice crystal, okay, any ice crystal or any liquid water for that matter, okay, they will produce what we call as a water vapor pressure. Okay, water vapor pressure. Okay, and this water vapor pressure varies according to the form of the water. Okay, if it is in ice form, then the water vapor pressure is different compared to when it is in liquid form. Okay, okay. So what happens is that, okay, even though when we store our food product, our freezers, okay, even though our freezers, when we turn it on, okay, we set the temperature. For example, we set it at negative 20 degrees C, right? Okay, but even though we set it at 20 degrees C, but it does not mean that the temperature will be constant at negative 20 degrees C. Okay, because when we have a freezer, okay, 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 let me just, okay, okay, so for example, if we have a freezer, okay, okay, so let's just take it that this is our freezer. Okay, so the freezer, we have it will be insulated. Okay, so for example, this is not, let me put in the shape. Okay, so for example, this is our freezer. Okay, and then what we want to do is that we want to reduce the temperature inside this container. Okay, that we call as our freezer. So the temperature outside, okay, the outside temperature, okay, outside temperature is high. Okay, and then inside temperature, okay, it is low. Right. Okay, inside temperature is low. Okay, so when we start our freezer, okay, when we before we start our freezer, the temperature outside here, okay, and temperature inside here are the same, right? But when we set our freezer and then we turn it on, so what happens is that, okay, so we have the condenser, we have the motor, okay, equipped for the freezer. This will absorb the heat, okay, and then discard it outside, okay, from inside to the outside. Okay, so it will result in the outside temperature high, inside temperature is low. Okay, so however, okay, the heat from the outside will always try to get inside. Okay, why? Because outside is high, inside is low, so there is a what we call as a temperature gradient. Okay, we call it as a temperature gradient. Okay, so when there is a temperature gradient, okay, so there will be, okay, so there is a temperature gradient over here. Okay, I'll just put it here. Okay, okay. So meaning that outside temperature is high, inside temperature is low. This will result in a spontaneous process where heat from outside will move inside the freezer. Okay, we try to minimize this, okay, of course, by, for example, putting in an insulation. Right. We try to reduce it by putting in insulation outside. So that's why when you look at your freezers, okay, there is a thick wall, and inside that wall usually there are insulating materials, okay, to reduce the amount of heat that can migrate or transfer from outside to the inside of your freezers. Okay, but we cannot retard it. We cannot retard it, like we cannot stop it 100%. Okay, because there is no insulation that is 100% except if it is in vacuum, and putting vacuum around here is not practical. Okay, so what happens is that the outside heat will always move inside. Okay, will always move inside, and the motor, okay, your freezer, okay, will discard, okay, will absorb the heat and throw it outside. Okay, discard it to the outside so that it can maintain a low temperature inside. But the heat from outside will always creep in. Okay, will always slowly move into the transfer or migrate into this freezer. Okay, so what happens is that, okay, for example, if you were to set it at 200 minus 20, okay, you set it at minus 20, okay, minus 20, okay, degree C. Okay, this is what we set. Okay, so the motor has a sensor, a temperature sensor inside here. Okay, so it will sense that, okay, the temperature is, when we first start our freezer, the temperature is 30 degrees C. So it is higher than negative 20. So it will turn on, and then it will discard the heat from inside to outside. So what happens is that the temperature inside here will slowly decreases until it reaches minus 20. Okay, until it reaches minus 20. So once it reaches minus 20, the sensor for the motor, okay, will send a signal to the motor saying that, okay, the target temperature has been reached, so the motor will stop. Because if the motor did not stop, then the temperature will start to decrease again. Okay, okay, so the motor will stop because the target temperature has been achieved. Okay, however, at the same time, outside temperature will slowly move into this freezer. So what happens to the temperature? Over time, slowly the temperature, although it is at minus 20, it will start to increase again. Okay, and then once it increases up to a certain point, the sensor of the motor will sense that, oh, it is high. Then it will start the motor again. So that's why even for your home refrigerators, okay, you can observe that all of a sudden it will stop, keep quiet, okay, because it has reached its target temperature, but all of a sudden it will start again. So meaning that because the temperature has risen to be above the set temperature. Okay, so actually what happens is that if you were to look at the graph, okay, at the graph of of temperature, okay, if you were to look at the graph of temperature, okay, so for example, this is the graph, okay, okay, so that is for temperature, and this is for time. Okay, so this is temperature. Sorry, this is temperature. Okay, so for example, that is temperature, and this is time. Okay, so what happens is that, okay, at first we will start here. Okay, so at room temperature, right? Okay, for example, this one over here, room temperature, and then the temperature will start to reduce. Okay, the temperature will start to reduce. Okay, we start here. So the temperature will start to reduce. Okay. 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 Again. Okay, we start here. Okay, room temperature 30 degrees C, and then it starts to reduce until it reaches its target temperature. For example, minus 20 degrees C. And then after that, the motor will stop, right? The motor will stop and heat will start to creep inside the freezer. So what happens is that slowly the temperature will increase. Up to a certain point, the sensor will sense that, oh, the temperature is too high. Then it will start again, and then the temperature will go down. After a certain temperature, then the sensor says that, oh, it has reached minus 20 degrees C, then it will turn off. Okay, and again, heat will always migrate from outside to the inside, causing the temperature to increase. And when it increases again, the sensor will sense that, oh, it has increased, it will turn itself on, okay, and then temperature will decrease back. Okay, so basically when we look, if we were to look at the temperature profile during freezing, so we can see that initial reduction of temperature, and then there will be a zigzag. This is what we call as temperature fluctuations during freezing. Okay. Okay. So storage temperature fluctuations. Okay. So at each temperature, there is a certain water vapor pressure. Water vapor pressure is the equilibrium, okay, between water vapor inside, okay, on the surface of the frozen moisture, and also the environment that surrounds it. Okay, so that's what we call as water vapor pressure. Sorry. So, for example, like if the storage is at minus 20, then it rises to minus 15 degrees C. So water will evaporate into the environment. Okay. When it drops back to minus 20 degrees C, there will be a condensation of the water vapor. Okay, so what happens is that the moisture that is in the gas form will condensate and convert into liquid form, and then it will, when there is liquid, it will move to the crystals and joins with the existing ice crystals, making forming a bigger crystal. Okay, so that is what we call what happens due to recrystallization. Okay, and then a freezer burn. Okay, the freezer burn is also a phenomenon which is very important because it affects, okay, the movement or the migration of water from the surface of the product to the outside environment. Okay, remember, when there is a gradient, there is migration, mass migration. Okay, similar to this one. Okay, when there is a gradient, there is migration. This is temperature gradient, temperature gradient. It is a migration of heat, okay, from outside to the inside. Okay, for this one, okay, when we subject or expose our product to a lower temperature environment, so usually in lower temperature environment, the relative humidity or the RH is lower. Okay, so the RH is lower and the product usually contains high moisture content, so there will be a temperature gradient where in the product there is a high amount of water vapor, whereas on the outside there is a lower amount of water vapor. Okay, so what happens is that water vapor from inside the product will migrate to the surrounding air, surrounding outside the environment. Okay, so that will cause, okay, so that will cause our product moisture content to be decreased, resulting in a dry surface. Okay, so that dry surface, it can be quite extreme to the extent because we are storing our product at a very low temperature, minus 20 degrees C. So it can be quite extreme to the point that it will form a dry layer, okay, on top of our product, and that is not preferable because our product will look bad. Okay, the appearance will not be great, and also the texture will be hard. Okay, and the color will be like a burnt color. So So that's why we call it as freezer burn. Okay. Okay. The difference in water vapor pressure. Okay, we have discussed that. Okay. Okay. The rate increases, okay, with increasing rate of ambient airflow. Okay, it's similar to drying out your clothes. Okay, when you dry out your clothes, okay, water evaporates, and if there is a gush of wind, a gush of air, if the airflow is higher, then the water evaporation also will be higher. So similar to freezer burn, because basically it is water evaporation, okay, from our product. Okay, so we have understood now several freezing phenomena. Okay, so now what we want to discuss is when we lower our, we know when we lower temperature in chilling, but above the freezing point of water, okay, that we know the effects on several of the threat factors of foods. But when we further reduce it, what will happen? Okay, to the threat factors of foods. Okay, so let's look at the first threat, that is chemical reaction. Okay, so for chemical reaction, in general, when we reduce our temperature, our storage temperature, then the reaction rate is also going to be lower. This we have already know. Okay, when we discuss chilling. Okay, but when we reduce it further, what will happen? Is it still going to be the same? Okay, or there are differences? Okay, so for freezing, we will still see the same effect. Okay, where in general, a reduction in temperature will result in the reduction of chemical reaction rates. Okay, however, it is due to freeze concentration. Okay, due to freeze concentration. So now when there is a higher concentration, then of course there will be a higher rate of reaction. Okay. Okay, and also the distance of micromolecules will be closer, because now we are talking about a smaller space. Okay, because the volume of water has decreased. So meaning that the molecules, the reacting molecules which is in the water, okay, the moisture now is closer together. Okay, so it increases the rate increase. Okay, increases the reaction rate. Okay, however, okay, so however, there are two opposite effects. Okay, there are two opposite effects. Okay, so low temperature lowers the reaction rate. Okay, okay, lowers the reaction rate, but concentration, due to freeze concentration, okay, increases the reaction rate. Okay, so in general, the temperature reduces. When temperature reduces, reaction rate also will slow down. However, because due to freeze concentration, there is an increase in the concentration of reactants because of the lower volume of moisture inside the food. Okay, and also the shorter distances between macromolecules. Okay, so which one will happen? Okay, both will happen, but the most significant one will depend on which the most significant effects, okay, will affect the reaction rate. Okay, for example, okay, let's take a look at this one. Okay, so this is the reaction kinetics, okay, of insolubilized protein. Okay, take a look at this one. The x-axis, this is the temperature for storage, and this one is the one that we are monitoring, that is the insolubilized protein. Okay, so insolubilized protein, meaning that the protein has degraded. Okay, the protein has degraded. Okay, so this is a monitoring of the degradation of protein. Okay. Okay, so when we reduce our temperature, okay, so this is 0. Okay, so when we reduce our temperature here, Okay, so you can see that the degradation increases. Okay, it is supposed to be that the lower the temperature, the lesser the degradation. But now you can see that the degradation increases. Okay, so this is due to the freeze concentration. But when we further lower it, then it drastically reduces. Okay, okay, so you can see that, okay, if you were to lower the temperature a little bit below the freezing, okay, here it starts to freeze below 0 because it is not pure water. Okay, it starts to, if we were to reduce our temperature a little bit, then chemical reaction rate will increase. But when we further reduce it, then the reaction rate will decrease. Okay, okay, so that is why, okay, so that is why when we, it is very important for us to, when we freeze our food product, not to freeze it just a little bit below the freezing point. Okay, not to just reduce it, the temperature below, a little bit below the freezing point, because if we were to do so, for example, we want to save on electricity, okay, we say, okay, and then, but the effect is that there is, as opposed to having a decrease, we will be experiencing an increase in reaction rates. Okay, so that's why, even though the moisture has frozen at minus, maybe -1 or -2 over here, but we still store it at -20. Okay, because we want to bypass this range of temperature where it has a chemical reaction increasing effects. So we reduce it further up to -20, where it has a very low reaction rate. Okay. Okay, so initial temperature range below the freezing point, we will see an increase in the reaction rate. So that is why we store our food products at very low temperature, for example, -18, -20. So the decrease in reaction rate is more significant. Okay. Okay, and then what about enzymes? Okay, enzymes also are threat factors to our food products. Okay, okay, enzymes, however, unfortunately for enzymes, okay, even though we store our food products at -20 degrees C, enzymes still functions. Okay, still function. Okay, they are not inactivated. Okay, it's just that they function at a very low rate. Okay, very low rates. Okay, it still has two opposite effects: increasing and then decreasing. Okay. Okay, but the increase is not because of freeze concentration, but rather the release of enzyme substrates, enzyme activators. Okay, due to the increase in volume during the freezing process. So when moisture, you freeze it, then it will increase in volume. It will disrupt the microstructure. So there will be more release of enzymes, substrates, and other components that will increase the reaction rate of the enzymes. Okay. Okay, and then microorganisms. Okay, so freezing temperature blocks the growth of microorganisms. Okay, so microorganisms cannot grow. Okay, but some will be killed, some will be injured. Okay, so some will be killed, some will be injured. Some subfatal injuries. Okay, some deaths. Okay, so what happens is that ice water, okay, even though there is not ice water, sorry, ice. Okay, so we have water. Now it turns into ice. Water is readily available, can be used by microorganisms. Okay, but ice cannot be used by microorganisms. Okay, and also from freezing, ice crystals will form. Then because inside microbes also there are moisture. So for some of them, okay, the formation of ice crystals will damage the cells, okay, and cause whether death or injuries to the microorganism. Okay. However, those that did not die, okay, they can grow, okay, after we thaw our food products. Okay. So that is why usually when we want to thaw our food products, okay, we don't thaw it at room temperature, because what happens is that when the ice starts to thaw, okay, then the microorganisms, okay, the injured microorganisms that did not die, okay, can start to regrow, okay, because you have time, you have nutrient, you have temperature, because it's at room temperature. So preferably when we want to thaw our frozen products, then we should put it in the chiller, in the refrigerator, penyejukan. Okay, not penyejuk bukan, not the freezer. Take it out from the freezer, put it inside the chiller. Okay, so that it will slowly thaw, but microorganisms still cannot grow because the temperature is low enough, okay, to retard the growth of microorganisms. Okay. Okay, so how do we preserve foods? Okay, by freezing. Okay, first I look at the products. Okay, for example, meat, poultry, and fish. All of these are protein-based or muscle-based foods. Okay, so we freeze it only after rigor. So this you will uh, you will learn more in food chemistry. Okay, so basically rigor, okay, is when uh, the muscle becomes hard. Okay, so we freeze it only after rigor, because after it becomes hard, okay, then it will become soft again. Okay, so if before rigor, before it becomes hard, then it will shrink when thawed and becomes elastic and loss of moisture. Okay, loss of moisture. Basically, the texture will not be great. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, and then secondly is that we all frozen food products, okay, need to be wrapped to avoid freezer burn. Okay, so we have discussed this. Freezer burn is basically the evaporation of moisture. Okay, so that's why we have to wrap it up. Okay, to wrap it up. Okay, the main damaging factor during frozen storage is fat oxidation. Okay, so fat oxidation. Fat oxidation is by enzymes. It can be a chemical oxidation or it can be an enzymatic oxidation. Okay, so chemical reactions basically is, in general, it stops during freezing. However, enzymes, like we discussed just now, enzyme activity does not stop. Okay, do not stop. Okay, so even though they are working or they are functioning at a very low rate, but it still functions. Okay, so the enzymes, for example, like lipase and phospholipase, so it will hydrolyze, okay, the lipids, okay, and release free fatty acids. Okay, and release free fatty acids. So these free fatty acids will then be oxidized. Okay, so it will be oxidized. So it will give a rancid taste and a rancid odor. Okay, fish in general, all of these are in general, okay, because when you talk about fish, there are thousands of types of fish. Okay, so we cannot go in specific, okay, to discuss each and every type of fish. So we are discussing in general terms, basically. Okay, so in general, fish are more sensitive to frozen storage. Okay, because one of the reasons being their tissues are softer as compared to meats, okay, or poultry. Okay, protein degradation due to increased salt concentration and pH changes. Okay, so that will occur. Okay, lipid reactions, okay, and oxidation. This is similar to what we have discussed previously, because some fishes, even though in general fishes are a low fat source of low fat protein, okay, but there are certain fishes that that have higher amount of fats. Okay, for example, like whales. Okay, so they have higher amount of fats. Okay, and also like in Malaysia, the even the freshwater fishes like ikan patin. Okay, so these are fatty fishes. Okay, fatty fishes. So when we freeze this, there is a threat or concern about it, about the oxidation of lipids and producing off flavor and off odors. Okay. Okay, decomposition of TMAO, we have discussed this previously, produces dimethylamine and also formaldehyde. Okay, formaldehyde may result in cross-linking of fish tissues, so the tissue becomes elastic. Okay, and then there is also a product from fish also, which is minced fish tissue. Okay, basically this is what we use to prepare like fish ball, fish cakes, etc. Okay, so we take the meat or the flesh of fish, and then we mince it, and then it will be certain other ingredients, sugar, salt, flavors will be added, and then it will be formed into fish ball or fish cakes. Okay, but before that, usually they will be stored first. Okay, until they are needed to be used. Okay, so usually because minced fish, okay, it is more sensitive to oxidation. Okay, basically because for minced fish, they have been comminuted. Okay, comminuted, sorry. They've been comminuted, meaning that they have been blended. Okay, they have been blended. They have been chopped, okay, into smaller particles. So smaller particles have a higher surface to volume ratio. Okay, surface to volume ratio. So as oxidation, okay, is a surface phenomena, meaning that it depends on the availability, the surface availability. So the higher the surface ratio, then it is more sensitive to oxidation. Okay, so what we can do is usually we will add antioxidant agents, okay, and then also protein stabilizers, for example, sorbitol, sugar, and others. Okay, this will increase protein hydration because sugars, for example, will bind moisture. So, so meaning that uh, less damaged proteins. Okay, okay, less damaged protein is produced. Okay, okay. So those are meat, poultry, and also fish. Okay, if you can see that for freezing, okay, the method is not really that difficult. Okay, that's why there are so many frozen products nowadays. Okay, because the method is basically put it in a package. That is very, very important, and then put it inside the freezer. Okay, although certain things needs also to be considered. Okay, and then fruits and vegetables. Okay, in general, okay, fruits and vegetables, they are not suitable to be preserved using freezing. Okay, basically because for fruits and vegetables, their tissues are very soft. Okay, their tissues are very soft. Okay, so they are more sensitive to frozen storage because as we know, when we freeze, then the ice crystals will form. Then the formation of ice crystals will damage the texture. Okay, and also because for fruits and vegetables, they do not have bones to support them. So, so they depend a lot on the hydrostatic pressure of moisture inside their cells. Okay, remember, uh, for plant cells, they have these cell walls. So these cell walls, okay, collectively will provide rigidity to the fruits and also vegetables. Okay, so when we freeze, okay, then these cells, they will lose the moisture or they will be damaged by the ice crystals, so that there will be no or there will be less hydrostatic pressure inside their cells, resulting in less rigidity. Okay, so that is why in general, fruits and vegetables, okay, they are not suitable to be preserved using freezing. Okay, however, there are exceptions. Okay, one of them is that, for example, what is not common here in Malaysia, but in other countries, in Western countries, it is quite common. That is what we call as a blend. Okay, a blend or a chopped vegetables like spinach. Okay, so so for them, for this one, usually, okay, we will give it a pre-treatment. Okay, a pre-treatment, and the most important pre-treatment is blanching. Okay, blanching. What is the purpose of blanching? This blanching, the purpose of blanching is first and foremost is to deactivate or inactivate enzymes. Okay, this is the most important purpose of blanching. Okay, penceluran. Okay, blanching, penceluran. Okay, so secondly is to reduce the number of microorganisms. Okay, but the first and foremost purpose of blanching is to deactivate or inactivate enzymes. Okay, because we've talked about frozen products being frozen for a very long time. Okay, and also we know that enzymes, they still function, although at a very low rate, but they still function. Okay, even though at freezing temperature. Okay, so what happens is that when we have this storage period, very long storage period, so it serves as an opportunity for these enzymes, okay, to degrade our, reduce the quality of our frozen food products. Okay, so we do blanching is to inactivate enzymes. Okay, so it will block reactions that cause damage during storage, for example, flavor changes. Okay, so if not, then then the product will still okay, be looks okay, but the taste will be a bit off. Okay, so consumers do not like that. Okay, and then secondly is blanching also reduces the number of microorganisms, but this is not the main. This is not the main purpose. Okay, the main purpose is to inactivate enzymes. Okay, so you will learn more about this in the second part, okay, of the semester. That is preservation using high temperature. So in general, we have blanching, pasteurization, okay, and also have blanching, pasteurization, and also sterilization. Okay. Okay, so we have, it has to be blanched. Okay, there needs to be a pre-treatment, and then it has to be blanched. Okay, and then texture, the attribute most affected by frozen storage. Okay, remember we talked about how fruits and vegetables, okay, produces their rigidity. Okay, so basically so they do not have bones to prop them up, okay, to help them to stay rigid, but they depends on the cell walls, okay, cell walls, and also the hydrostatic pressure inside their cells. Okay, so when we frozen the food products, so these ice crystals, okay, will destroy the microstructure, so will affect the quality of the fruits and also vegetables. Okay, so when the cells are damaged, so there will be a loss of cell vigor, okay, and also texture, hardness, okay, due to ice formation and also cell breakdown. Okay, what we can do to reduce the effect is to use calcium salts. Okay, use calcium salts, because when we have calcium, it will form an ionic interaction between calcium and also pectic substances. Pectic substances are substances in the cell walls. One of the main components or compounds in the cell walls that gives rigidity to the fruits and also vegetables. Okay, so when we use calcium salts will form like a cross-linking between the pectic substances, thus giving higher rigidity to the fruits and also vegetables. Okay. Okay, and then because of its soft nature, okay, when the microstructure is damaged, then there will be loss of, among others, loss of color. Okay, through physical because of the damage, and also enzymatic factors, okay, because of enzyme reactions. Okay, and then physical. Okay, there will be cell breakdown because of ice crystals. So when the cells are damaged, okay, the cell walls are damaged, then this will allow liquid flow. Okay, and inside this liquid, anything that is soluble in water will also be lost. For example, like water soluble pigments. Okay. Okay, and then another threat to fruits and vegetables is enzymatic. Okay, we have discussed this, the enzymatic browning, okay, by polyphenol oxidase. So this also will occur here. Okay, and then oxidation of color pigments, for example, chlorophyll, anthocyanin. Okay, all of this can be inhibited by blanching. Okay, so that's why usually for vegetables, okay, for vegetables, canned mushrooms, canned spinach, etc. before the canning process. Sorry, not canning, freezing. Okay, before the freezing process, okay, they will be blanched first. Okay, so blanching is very important. Okay, for flavor, there will be some unwanted flavor changes. Okay, that's why we need to blanch them. Okay, we need to blanch them. Okay, oxidation reaction also similar. Okay, blanching will reduce the enzymes and also the oxidation. Okay, and then two types of changes, okay, will occur: loss of fresh flavor, okay, and also undesirable flavor formation, okay, due to the enzymes. Okay, this is also another reason why we need to deactivate the enzymes, okay, through blanching. Okay, we can reduce this with oxygen removal, again, vacuum packaging, and also enzyme inhibition. Okay, for example, blanching, not bleaching. Okay, for example, blanching. Okay, so those are how we freeze fruits and vegetables. Okay, so for vegetables, the majority it will be chopped up, okay, and then frozen. For fruits, of course, for both of these fruits and vegetables, they are not that many is suitable to be frozen. Okay, examples for fruits are like strawberries. Okay, other types of products are like mixed vegetables. Okay, you have mixed vegetables like peas and then carrots all in one. Okay, and then packaged and then frozen. Okay, so those types of vegetables, okay, they also need to be blanched first, okay, to inactivate enzymes, then only frozen. Okay. Okay, those are the methods according to products. Okay, what about the equipments? What equipments do we use? The most basic is just package it and then put it inside freezers. Okay, put it inside freezers. However, This is slow freezing. Okay, this is an example of slow freezing. You just package it and then put it inside freezers. It is slow freezing. When there are when these products are frozen slowly, then as we know, okay, when the freezing rate is slow, okay, meaning that it slows to develop ice, okay, then the ice that forms will have a larger size. So that will result in a higher loss or lower quality of our frozen food products. Okay, so what happens is usually we will try to get a method or equipment that can suitably freeze our product at the highest rate possible. Okay, so that the higher the freezing rate, then the smaller the ice crystals, the lesser the damage to the microstructure of our food products. Okay, okay. So equipments, three main methods. Basically, it is freezing by air, using air, and then freezing using liquid. Okay, and then freezing by contacts. Okay, so let's look at the first one, freezing using air. Okay, so most commonly used, basically because the upfront, the initial capital, okay, to buy this kind of equipment is not that high. Okay, it's cheaper compared to the other equipments. Okay, so most commonly used where the food is packaged, put in trays, okay, and then put on shelves, on trolleys. So the trolleys will be pushed inside a tunnel, and where inside the tunnel cold air is being blown. So this cold air will absorb the heat, reduce the temperature of the food products, okay, to 30 to 40 degrees C. Okay, so this is an example, okay, of air freezing by air. Okay, so you have this tunnel. Okay, this is from the side view. This is from over at this side. Okay, this is the end view. Okay, so you can see that these are trolleys on wheels. Okay, where we push the wheels, the trolleys, okay, from this side, product in, and then it will go out from the other end. Okay, that is product out. Okay, on these trolleys, we will put in trays where on the trays there are food products that we are going to freeze. Okay, then we just push it in from this side, this end, and we go out at that end. Okay, and then we will put it inside the store. Okay. Okay, these are fans that will blow in the cold air because the media of freezing, of cooling is air. So these are the fans that will blow in the air. If you were to look at here, over here, from the end, okay, the cross section. So these are the trolleys, okay, that we push in, okay, from this side. This is the fan. This is a fan, okay, and then there will be a compressor. So basically, okay, this fan, okay, this is the cooling coil. Okay, this is cooling coil. So this fan will force air through here, through the trolleys, okay, and then it will go through the cooling coil where that air will experience a reduction in temperature, okay, and then be swept, okay, onto the trays and absorb the heat from the products on the trays. So that's how they cool products using air. Okay, the amount of time inside here depends on the speed of the trolleys. Okay, so if they want to increase the time, then the trolleys, the speed of the trolleys, okay, moving from this end to the other end will be slower. Okay, so it depends on the speed of the trolleys. That is adjustable. Okay, we call it as a tunnel freezer. Okay, and then plate freezing. Okay, plate freezing. Okay. Okay, so this is a schematic of one of the plate freezers. Okay, so basically what happens is that we have plates. Okay, these are steel plates. Okay, and inside the steel plates there is a cavity. Okay, ada ruang inside the steel plates where we will pump in the coolant. Coolant cooling media. Usually it is in liquid. Okay, so when we pump in the coolant or cooling media, okay, from here, okay, it will go through the fan and be cooled. Okay, and be cooled. Okay, and then it will go into the cavities, into the spaces inside the plates. So the plates will become cold. Okay, the plates will become cold, and then we will put our products between plates and it will be sandwiched. Okay, we will press on the products, it will touch the products, and it will absorb the heat from the product so that the product will become frozen. Okay, so the product will become frozen. Okay, this is okay, as we know, what we are trying to do is to remove heat from the product, and heat can travel by conductance, convection, and also by sinaran. Right, okay, conductance, convection, and through without any media. Okay, how the sun, okay, we can feel the heat from the sun, so similar. Okay, so heat is more effective, if more effectively, it will travel more effectively in solid as compared to in liquid or gas. Okay, so meaning that by using a contact freezer where the plates, okay, cooling plates comes into direct contact with the food product, then it will increase the efficiency of the removal of heat. Okay, because heat travels better in solid compared to in air. Okay, so compared to the tunnel freezer, freezing by air, so this is a much more efficient freezing. Okay, it is much more efficient freezing. Okay, however, the setback is that this is only suitable for products that have a uniform dimension. For example, in the form of a cube. Okay, and products that have high surface to volume ratio. If it is in a circle, okay, so for example we have plates like this. Okay, so we have upper plate, okay, and then we also have a lower plate. So if our product is in a defined dimension like this, okay, so if it is like this, then it is okay, because this is cold, okay, and then it comes into contact, so it will absorb all the heat. Okay, so our product will become frozen. Okay, but if our product is like this, okay, so you can see that over here there is a large surface area for the absorption and removal of heat, whereas over here it is only very small. Okay, so plate freezers are very efficient, very effective. However, it is not for all products. It is not for all products. Okay, if you were to compare with the tunnel freezer, the freezing by air, even though it is less effective, but lower initial cost for equipment, and also it is more versatile, meaning that it can be used for many types of products as opposed to a plate freezer. Okay. Okay, and then we also have a liquid freezing. Okay, liquid freezing where the freezing media is in liquid form. For example, liquid nitrogen, where it can reach 195 degrees C, or liquid freon, okay, minus 30 degrees C. Okay, there is direct contact between the product and the cooling media. Okay, it's very important, as in others, the food is packaged and wrapped. Okay, packaged and wrapped. Sorry, this is the food is put in packs, not packages. Okay, food packs. Okay, because it is not packaged, so that it will comes in contact with the liquid. So put in packs. Okay, and then it will be frozen. Okay, so this is an example. Okay, this over here, this is a conveyor belt. It just goes on in circles like that. So we put our product over here. It will go inside, and then it will be sprayed. Okay, will be sprayed by the coolants, and then over here the product will be frozen. Okay, so this is very efficient. Okay, this is very efficient. A lot of industries in Malaysia use this kind of freezing. Okay, although it is smaller. Okay, and also uses this one, blast freezers, tunnel freezers or blast freezers. Okay, this one lesser used in Malaysia. Okay, maybe in certain specific industries. Okay, so you can see that this is the liquid coolant, liquid nitrogen or liquid carbon dioxide. Okay, so when it touches the food product, okay, then it will absorb the heat and it will evaporate. Okay, it will evaporate. So there are basically no need to clean up residues or anything, because it will just evaporate. Okay. Okay, effect of increasing freezing rate varies according to the product. In chicken meats, in general, less impact because it is tougher. Okay, but fruits softer, so it is more sensitive to freezing. Okay, freezing rates. Okay, so for fruits, you want it to be real fast. Okay, so that there will be only small ice crystal formations. So better texture, reduction of fluid loss. Okay. Okay. However, even though we want to freeze it real fast, but it should not be too fast. Okay, it should not be too fast, because cooling too rapidly can result in freeze cracking. Okay, freeze cracking. Okay, so what happens is that, okay, for example, okay, so yeah, remember one of the anomalies of frozen water is that when it freezes, then it expands in volume. Right? It expands in volume. Let's take a look at this schematic. Okay. Okay, so these are two types of products. It is spherical, for example. Okay, so but this is not real products. Just want to show you what freeze cracking is. Okay, T1. This is time. Okay, time 1, time 2, 3, and then any time to the nth time. Okay, so this is temperature profile. This is the stress. Okay, so what happens is that you can see that at time 1, everything is the same. Okay, the temperature is uniformly distributed at any point of the product. and the stress is basically non-existent, no stress. Okay, and then when we freeze it, okay, we freeze it, then of course the outer layer will start to freeze first, right? Because the removal of heat, okay, because this is in contact closest to the removal of heat, so the outside layer will the temperature will drop. Okay, the temperature will drop, but the inside, okay, the inside, it is still the same as previously. Okay, so still high temperature over here. So when we look at the stress, still there are no significant stress being endured by the products. But after a while, okay, so the frozen layer of the product now starts to increase. And when this happens, you can see that they started to have stress. Okay, has stress, because outside, okay, when it freezes, then the volume will expand. However, inside the volume stays the same. So now you have stress, okay, due to the difference in temperature from between the outside layer and the inside layer. Okay, so when it further happens, okay, is when there is so much expansion, okay, and the integrity and the inside part cannot cope with it, then the integrity will be compromised. Okay, then there will be a what we call as a freeze cracking. The phenomena freeze cracking, it will emit a sound like a crack. Okay, like something cracks. So that's why we call it as freeze cracking. Okay. Okay, so what we want to do is we want it to be as fast as possible without freeze cracking. There are no problems when it comes to safety for freeze cracking, but it's just that the appearance of the product will not be desirable to the consumers. Okay. Okay. All of this is just explanation. Okay, you can read later on your own, but it is based on what I have discussed. Okay, explained just now. Okay. What are the factors that affect the quality of frozen foods? Okay, so this is important because we want to produce. Remember, when we talk about preservation, okay, it has to cover two aspects. First is the safety. Second is the quality. Okay, we do not want to use a preservation method that only addresses either one. Of course, safety is the utmost importance. We do not compromise on that. But at the same time, no point in us producing safe foods, but the customers don't like it. Okay, so the company will still be at a loss. Okay, so we want both. Okay, we want to preserve address the safety aspect and also the quality aspects. Okay, so when it comes to freezing, okay, the quality of frozen foods, okay, it depends. Factors that will affect it, among others. Okay, the first one is the freezing rate. Okay, this we have discussed. I think all of you understands. Okay, so this is just a sample picture of an ice crystal. Okay, so you can see all of this very sharp, what do you call it, forms. Okay, so this can puncture the cells, okay, and destroy the microstructure. Okay, so freezing rate is very important. Okay, if freezing rate is high, okay, the rate is high, meaning time for freezing is low. Okay, so the ice crystal is small. Okay, Salzburger. Okay, so this is the property that is produced by the hydrostatic pressure. Okay, Turger means that it is segah. Okay, in Malay we call it as segah. Okay, meaning that it is rigid. Okay. So the lower the ice crystal, the better the turgor of the cells. Okay. Okay. So what we want is a lower freezing rate, a very high freezing rate. Okay. So that the time for freezing will be short. Okay. Okay. So this is an example about the freezing rate. Okay. So this is a cross section, okay, of the same products, okay, but being frozen using different types of freezing. Okay, A is immersion freezing. Immersion freezing meaning that we take the product and we immerse it in liquid. Okay, similar, it is freezing using liquid, but as opposed to spraying it, then for this procedure, this method, they took the product and then immerse it into liquid coolant. Okay, so it is immersion freezing. B is contact freezing. Okay, we have discussed this. Okay, between the plates, sandwich between the plates, and then C is static air freezing. Basically, it is freezing by air, using air. Okay, like the tunnel freezer. Okay, so you can see that immersion freezing, freezing using liquid, it creates very small ice crystals. Okay, very small ice crystals, because by immersion freezing, we are using a very, very low temperature of coolant for the coolant. And also because it is liquid, then it can surround the product, okay, according to the shape of the product. So that will produce a very efficient heat transfer, okay, removal of heat. Okay, the next one for B is the plate freezer, contact freezing. Okay, this uses removal of heat through conductance. Okay, so because it comes into contact with the products, but you can see that the size of ice crystals are larger compared to the immersion freezing. Okay, and then lastly, you can see that this is static or freezing by air. So you can see that it has a larger formation of ice crystals. Okay. Okay, and then secondly is frozen storage period. Okay, so even though we have discussed this that I showed you for this one. Okay, so remember, okay, even though we store our products at negative 20 degrees C, doesn't mean that the temperature will be constant. At minus 20 degrees C, temperature fluctuations will occur. So the longer the storage time, the lower the quality of the food products. Okay, because it is more exposed to temperature fluctuations, recrystallization, etc. Okay, this is the period, and then also temperature. Okay, and then also temperature. Okay, so the lower the storage temperature, okay, so the better. Okay, the higher the quality. Okay, so the lower the storage temperature, the higher the quality. So better preservation effects, okay, and reaction rate is slower. Okay, but as we have discussed, need to avoid the range of increased reaction. So we have to go further down the freezing point. Don't just we should not use a storage temperature that is near the freezing point. Okay, because there will be an increasing effects for chemical reaction. Okay. Okay, and then storage temperature stability. Okay, this also we have discussed about the fluctuations of temperature inside our freezers, and then the evaporation, and then the condensation, okay, resulting in a higher ice crystals. Okay, so the higher the temperature stability, the higher the quality. Okay. Okay, and then lastly, okay, it is packaging. Okay, it is packaging. This is to reduce freezer burn, okay, and also to reduce other possible chemical reactions such as oxidation. Okay, so for every food products, packaging is necessary. Okay, and preferably packaging with low water transfer rate feature are preferable because we do not want to lose the moisture. Okay, reduces also freeze dehydration, or that this will result in freezer burn. Okay. Okay, so that completes our discussion regarding freezing. Okay, and also the last of my lecture. We won't have, like I mentioned inside UKM Folio, we won't have any quiz today. Okay, but we will have it next Thursday. Okay. Okay, any questions? Okay, so everybody is clear. Okay, good. Okay, so any questions?
Can I ask if all the topics that you talk about is going to be in the quiz?
The quiz, it will only be 50 minutes. Okay, so definitely I'm not going to cover everything. So the quiz is not only for today. Okay, it is for low temperature food preservation. But it will be an open book and only 50 minutes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, just go through your notes. As long as you are familiar with your notes, I don't see any problems in answering the quiz.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, welcome. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, we'll stop here. Okay, thank you.
So, Doctor, it will be objective form or short answer?
Short answers.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Doctor, could you please show the attendance QR code again?
No, I'm not taking. I don't take any attendances.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So that's it for today. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.